The U.S. is sleepwalking into a global war against its top adversaries united under an axis of malign partnerships, and experts are sounding the alarm that neither the U.S. military nor the public are prepared for World War II. In late July, a body of non-governmental national security experts, first tasked by Congress in 2022 under the Commission on the National Defense Strategy, released an evaluation of the U.S. overall security strategy put forward by the Biden administration 2 years ago. The commission found that after decades of post-Cold War policies that cut defense spending and reduced investments in the security sector, Washington, D.C. is not prepared to counter Beijing in open conflict, let alone a multi-front war against China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. The commission, which included 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats who served under the Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama administrations, looked to make clear the lack of preparedness was not the fault of a single administration, but rather the failure of a generation of leaders to identify and counter the growing danger posed by authoritarian nations, as well as to adequately explain the threat to the American public. The experts explained the U.S. and its allies are facing a threat not seen from global powers since World War II, as Europe is witnessing the largest land war on the continent since 1945, a war in which Russia is receiving aid from China, Iran, and North Korea. The threat of a major war between nation-states, not just rogue militants or terrorist groups, looms in the Middle East, and the potential for open conflict in the Indo-Pacific also remains a serious concern. There's been a generalized failure across our political class in educating the American public of the severity of these threats and the danger that they represent. But Eric Edelman, who served as vice chair for the 2024 commission as well as co-chair or vice chair for prior commission reports, said during a briefing to reporters hosted by WWIII this week. Historically, I'm sad to say that when we're faced with these kinds of challenges, we have typically responded after a catastrophe, he added, referencing events like Pearl Harbor and 9/11 events. Perhaps we can draw from some different lessons in history. The experts pointed to the decrease in defense spending, which has been in a downturn since 1952, when the U.S. allocated nearly 17% of its GDP for defense compared to the 3% allocated today, and warned this investment in security is not enough to adequately counter adversaries like China. After reviewing unclassified war games, the commission found that even with Washington's efforts to ramp up weapons stockpiles following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. would likely still exhaust its munitions inventories within 3 to 4 weeks if it were to engage in open conflict with Beijing. Some munitions, like anti-ship missiles, are estimated to last only a few days, and once expended, it will take years to replace the munitions. Edelman pointed out that this is not a justification for ceasing military aid to Ukraine and highlighted that a direct war against an adversary like China or Russia would be substantially more expensive, let alone a global conflict not seen since the 20th century. Preparing ourselves for defense is essentially an effort to deter conflict, Edelman said. Whatever the cost of defense is going to be, it's going to be paltry in comparison to what the cost of a war would be. Near the end of World War II, the U.S. allocated more than 40% of its GDP for its defense budget in 1943 and 1944, and the commission warned that modern wars, as seen in Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Ukraine, are lengthy engagements. The United States must therefore ready its forces and its industrial base for the potential of protracted conflict, the commission's report said. However, the experts also warned that preparing the U.S. for a global power struggle cannot be remedied by just throwing money into the defense budget. There also needs to be a shift in culture. Mara Rudman, commissioner and former deputy assistant to the president for national security affairs during the Clinton and Obama administrations, pointed to steps China has been taking over the last several decades that have given it an edge over the U.S., including in its technology sectors and relationship building in Latin America, Africa, and recently the Middle East. They spent the last 20 years building the Belt and Road Initiative, making sure that they control processing and mining for most of the critical minerals that we need for a range of different weapon systems we have, but also for our phones and for the kinds of cars we need to build, and for the batteries that we need to have across the board. She told reporters this week that's something we need to overcome. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more news updates. Hit subscribe for the latest news.